news and hate speech have been described as weapons of national disunity the world over. The federal government has continually hammered on the need for Nigerians to desist from the use of hate speech and fake news in the country. What are the causes and consequences of fake news and hate speech? How can these challenges be tackled among media practitioners? This is our focus on News Panorama, coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. I'm Elizabeth Omori. First news making the rounds from after this timeout. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has arrived San Francisco to begin a two-day visit to the United States. His flight touched down at the Atlantic Aviation Support Airport at about 6 p.m. local time. The Vice President was received on arrival by the Ambassador of Nigeria to the United States, Silvanus Nsofo, and the Consul General Atlanta, Kayode Laro. While in the country, the Vice President is scheduled to have meetings with some global leaders in technology, innovation, and entertainment industry on the progress the country is making in the sectors. He will also speak on the effort of government on the ease of doing business in the country and the readiness for foreign direct investment on these sectors and other areas of the economy. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo will also be visiting Hollywood in Los Angeles before returning to Nigeria on Thursday. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that the Vice President is being accompanied on the trip by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Elenama, Special Advisor to the President on Economic Matters, Adeyemi Dipeolu, and heads of relevant agencies, as well as other top government officials. The federal government has directed the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission to enforce new metering regulation for the realization of the contract in the supply of prepaid meters, to which 37 billion naira is already committed. Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Raji Fashola, gave the directive while highlighting the state of the power sector in the industry. Usman Aliyu has details.
After 5 years of the privatization in the power sector, the desired stability is still hanging. One of the major issues is outrageous billing by the distribution companies, even when there is no availability of the service. However, it was pointed out here that the distribution companies do not pay substantially to the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, whom they buy power from, but charge end users exorbitantly.
They remit only about 15 to 20% of the power they receive. And to date, they have accumulated debts in excess of 500 billion naira owed to MBED.
As a solution to the problem of metering consumers, the federal government committed 37 billion naira, a contract fund that was not used for the same purpose by the defunct PHCN. The Ombudsman observed reluctant cooperation on the part of the distribution companies, which affects improvement in the electricity value chain, and further directed enforcement of new meter regulation, among other decisions for the progress of the sector.
The number of complaints coming to government for meters which DISCOs should supply, and for estimated billings and mass disconnections where not everybody is owing, cannot continue. It is necessary to direct NEC to step in.
This action is expected to make both electricity consumers and the service providers to be more responsible. In Abuja, Usman Aliyu, NTA News.
The federal government has signed a memorandum of understanding with MV Agric Engineers of India for the establishment of 10 rice milling centers in the country. This is sequel to the Federal Executive Council's approval for the construction of 10 milling centers in 10 states at the cost of 10.7 billion naira. Musa Baba Aliyu has details.
The 10 rice mills will be located in 10 producing states with the capacity to produce 100 tons of milled rice each per day. This is to enhance the milling capacity of rice value chain in the country. The Minister of Agriculture signed a memorandum of understanding with a multinational company that will produce the milling machines before the end of December next year.
And we are insistent on achieving self-sufficiency in rice production because we simply can't afford to spend over $5 million a day importing rice. We don't have the money.
In the meantime, economists have described the Central Bank of Nigeria Anchor Borrowers Program as a panacea to the financial constraints associated with crop production in Nigeria. This is coming as the economists advise other West African countries to adopt such approach towards improving food security in the region.
If it's worked for Nigeria, and within the similar circumstance, it can work in other places, so it can be adapted somewhere else.
In the central bank's interest to do what they did, and what they did was they were looking for a way to conserve foreign exchange. So if I can grow agricultural products so that we have more food, we have food security, then we will not be needing to import food into the country to use our foreign exchange resources. So that's basically why they did it.
Financial experts in this forum, organized to discuss the role of Central Bank of Nigeria agricultural development, stress the need for a policy that will further enhance the effectiveness of the Anchor Borrowers Program. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA.
The federal government has restated commitment to changing the narrative of the nation's economic plight to prosperity. The Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Bunaya Ono, stated this at a World Press briefing in Lagos. Paul Omokago has details.
The perceived slow pace in the development of the country in science and technology and over-reliance on oil and gas sector may have informed the need for the Executive Order Number 5, which seeks to promote the application of science and technology. It is also aimed at driving innovation in the economy in attaining the nation's development goals. In pursuance of this, the Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Bunaya Ono, stressed the need for procuring authorities to give preference to Nigerian companies in their award of contracts in line with Public Procurement Act 2007. Nigerians, it further explained, must change their attitudes towards science and technology based on the realization that the future of the country depends largely on it.
It will certainly trigger a silent revolution in how we think as a people and how we regard science and technology as the missing link in our quest to become a truly great nation.
Some stakeholders at the briefing say the success of the presidential executive order depends on implementation.
Wonderful ideas, bold statements are made, but it's implementation. That's where I have my doubts.
It is about self-reliance, sustainability. It will affect even our education.
This is the way to grow the economy, the creative economy. This is how to grow it, in which you want to leave everything to the hands of your own people.
The Minister of Science and Technology assured that the policy will penetrate the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. In Lagos, Paul Omukago, NTA News.
The Nigerian Army has handed over more than 100 children caught in the middle of counter-insurgency operations in the northeast to the Borno State government. Jessit Tafida reports.
The children, who are all teenagers below 18 years, were arrested in the course of insurgency operations over the years in the sub-region, with suicide bomb vests, some with ammunition, rifles, knives and cutlasses, or aiding the Boko Haram insurgents in their operations.
In the course of our operation in the northeast here, some of these children were either used as suicide bombers, some were informants to the PH. There was every reason that government of Borno State should be involved in what we are doing. And so we can have proper documentation of what is happening, we have decided to hand over to the Borno State government. That in turn handed over these children to UNICEF, United Nations Agency, so that everybody can be copiously involved in what we are doing.
The theater commander Operation Lafia Doli, Major General Rogers Nicholas, who represented the Chief of Army Staff, noted that the children will undergo comprehensive psychosocial and rehabilitation supports. Receiving the children on behalf of the Borno State government, Commissioner of Women Affairs and Social Development, Fanta Baba Shehu, lauded the effort of the Nigerian Army in the fight against terrorism and for rescuing the children.
We're going to take care of you, we'll support you, and we're going to fix you back to your families.
UN Country Representative Ibrahim Sise thanked the Nigerian Army for the cordial relationship existing between the Nigerian Army and UN as well as Borno State government. He assured of UNICEF's support in reintegrating and rehabilitating the children so as to make them useful to the society. In Maiduguri, I am Jessit Tafida, NTA News.
Meanwhile, data indicate that between 80 and 90% of civilians are affected when explosive devices are in public places. The International Network on Explosive Weapons is a partnership calling for immediate action to prevent their use.
Explosive weapons detonated by suicide bombers have led to a disruption of key humanitarian sectors, including healthcare, education, and security. In 2015 alone, these weapons accounted for more than 2,000 casualties in northeastern Nigeria, resulting in internal displacement and disruption of socio-economic activities. The International Action Network on Small Arms Women Network says, though the government is slowly winning the war against insurgency, more needs to be done to overcome the threats posed by these explosive weapons.
And we as a women group think that if we are not in the forefront of advocating for peace to come in this country, who else will do that? We have to start from within. When we don't know the number of people who are affected with the use of explosive weapons, we would not know how to project intervention.
That if there are policies, not just policies, but if there are measures that will ensure that those policies are adhered to strictly, that will go a long way.
The seminar drafted an 8-point action plan which includes encouraging collection of data on the impact of explosive weapons on civilians in populated areas as outlined in the Maputo communique. Naja Atutijani, NTA News.
Addressing media personalities from around the world recently in Abuja at the IPI conference, President Muhammadu Buhari raised a thorny issue, the problem presented by fake news. In this special report, Michael Olale examines the phenomenon and the consequential effect.
President Donald Trump of the United States of America, it is that started grabbing global headlines with the expression fake news. However, it is a phenomenon that has been around as long as lies have existed, though journalism is anchored on the golden rule that facts are secret. Some practitioners have in the past played fast and loose with facts. It has in some instances given journalism a bad name and affected trust, which is the backdrop of public confidence in the profession. Fake news, however, assumed a more worrisome dimension with the explosion of the social media. Suddenly, everybody has become a journalist, and the practice of gatekeeping in order to ensure that stories were factual eroded. The world is now dealing with the many ramifications and, of course, the consequences. A recent poll by the BBC World Service suggests that 88% of Nigerians are worried about the borderline between real and fake news. President Muhammadu Buhari himself weighed in recently, indicating how pervasive fake news has become. Across the country, on various social media platforms, stories and pictures are passed around, many of them inaccurate or outright falsehood.
A lot of people have gone through a lot because of that. Some have even committed suicide. Yes, it's that bad, actually, And it also gives people a wrong thought about so many things.
We are not attuned to making researches, thinking deep, using our intuition to sieve the truth from the false.
Experts are now warning that people take some stories with the proverbial pinch of salt before swallowing them hook, line, and sinker. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
While addressing the recent IPI conference in Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari raised the recurring issue of fake news and hate message. To speak more on this, I have with me a journalist in the studio. Is none other than Chido Onwakama. It's nice to have you in the studio.
My pleasure.
All right, why is this becoming more prevalent in the Nigerian media?
Fake news is not an exclusive Nigerian phenomenon.
Okay.
Fake news gained prominence, as you were, following the U.S. election of 2016 and the assumption of office of Mr. Donald Trump last year. As you recall, that election was very contentious, and even now there are issues around whether the social media, particularly Facebook, was used to influence that election in one direction or the other. But what is fake news? Fake news is deliberate information that is untrue but passed as true. It is designed by its perpetrators to mimic the characteristics of normal news. So they will pick a Guardian website, a This Day website, an NTA website, clone it, and make it look like you are the one disseminating the information. So fake news has various dimensions, including the political. But what has been most prominent now is a dimension of technology. Technology is playing a major role in the large spread of fake news. What are we talking about? What technology? Mobile and internet.
Okay. Now, let's quickly go to my next question. Don't you think the social media has a role to play in this?
Of course, that's where I was going to. The social media is at the heart of the prominence of what is now known as fake news. Because people now have access to media, to operate as citizen journalists, to operate as purveyors of news, even as they are not trained for that purpose.
Bloggers?
Yes, they are not trained for that purpose. Everybody is now going wild. Across the world, WhatsApp has been the medium, the platform that has been blamed for dissemination of the most fake news. Recent research shows that WhatsApp is the #1 sharing medium in Nigeria. So we have a situation where on WhatsApp, someone sits in his bedroom, picks up his phone, and makes all kinds of...
All he needs to do is just to press the send button.
And then some other people say copied and send.
Yes.
And then the thing just goes around. That research by Hootsuite shows that there are 19 million of us on the internet in Nigeria. So you can imagine, and these are usually a large portion of those are persons in what economists will call the ABC classes. They are in the upper, the middle classes, medium, upper, and lower middle classes. Very few at the very low level. So these are influencers, in other words. These are persons whose opinions matter to the next person.
Yes.
And they are spreading this information. In several fora, you've asked questions of educated people, but did you check that news?
Yes.
And they say, well, I just found it on my WhatsApp and I was interested. And they sent it.
Okay. Now, how can this be caught? Because really, we all have phones. We have access to the internet. How can this be caught?
Two things are possible.
Okay.
The first is a call on professionally trained journalists to become even more credible. Let me explain what I mean. What happens with fake news, with news that spreads on social media, is that people receive it, and the more discerning say, let us wait to see if the traditional media will report it. Is it on NTA? Is it on channels? Is it on The Guardian? Is it in Business Day? They want to be sure. What that says is that there is a trust in the traditional media. There's a credibility that has been built over the years. So we need journalists in the traditional media need to build even more on their credibility so that the citizen out there says, let me wait. Let's see if the traditional media will report it.
Yes.
And why?
They're waiting.
Why they are waiting? Why do they wait for us? Because over the years, journalism has been founded on the principles of purpose. Our purpose is utilitarian. We want to serve the public with information that they can use,
yes,
not fake news.
At all.
2, we have a practice the practice based on the discipline of verification. You bring in a story, the editor says,
where did you get it from?
Where did you
What's
get
the
this
source?
from? Yes. That process of checking and verifying, we must do even more of it so that the citizen begins to trust us.
And gain confidence.
Gain confidence.
Okay. Now, what should be the role of regulatory and professional bodies in this?
You know that we have a law in Nigeria, the Cyber Crimes Act 2015, that regulates what you can share in the cyberspace.
Yes.
Many citizens are not aware, so we probably need to create awareness. That's what the regulator should do.
Okay.
Create awareness of this law and the potential for people to go to jail for 10 years if you keep spreading false information and all of that.
All right, Mr. Chido Nwakama, thank you so much for your time. This is much I can take from you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
More reports to come. Stay with us on Panorama.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Gerula. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
Slavery is an evil practice abolished all over the world over 200 years ago. But today, human traffickers are selling human beings as slaves in Africa. It is your responsibility to make sure that you and the people you know do not fall into slavery. Don't believe fake promises of jobs abroad.
Say Libya, Italy no use you when they carry me on top water. 4 days now they lock me for inside house, no food, no water. I nearly die. Now God, when me heaven and earth, now save me. If you get 1 naira for Nigeria, you get junior one, you say you no get papa, you no get mama, now make you come out. I beg go they do farm work. You better pass person when enter road.
Don't accept to travel to Europe through the Sahara Desert. You may be walking into slavery. Don't be a slave.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by N.
Thanks for staying with us. And now to sports. International